Hey, ghoul friends, it's me! Oh my god, I missed you so much. Sorry, I'm already yelling. Happy New Year. Holy cow. Okay, so you all have been keeping up, I'm sure, on social media, at Susto Podcast on every platform. So I took Christmas break, right? Winter break. I'm going to explain to y'all what happened. I'm giving you the full timeline. I took winter break. And then I expected to just jump back into the new year. Happy New Year, by the way. Oh my God. And then I get home. New Year comes and goes. Mind you, I had a cough the entire month of December, but I figured cedar season was here. I got cedar fever or something. It was just allergies. It was a dry cough, nothing. And then, you're my doctor, by the way. I'm telling you all of this. And then suddenly, something has changed within me. I loved Wicked, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. And then the cough was different. It was now, sorry to be gross, but it was a wet cough. It was productive. There was stuff happening. I could suddenly feel a rattling while I was breathing. And I said, this is not just an allergy cough anymore. This has progressed into something else, which apparently is something that can happen if you have allergies bad enough. Bronchitis is an opportunistic infection, spoiler alert. And then I went to the doctor and they said, hey, you have bronchitis. So I was put on like a stronger cough medicine and an inhaler. I finally just started to sound like myself a couple days ago. And when I mean a couple days ago, I hit the ground running as soon as I can. Literally, nope, I didn't even think about that one. No pun intended. As you may have also seen on my Instagram stories, and I think I posted about it on Blue Sky, I ran for the first time a half marathon. And if you all have been following me for a while, I think I spoke about it before, where I started running and it was amazing. I'm like deceptively a natural. I'm sorry, you're gonna get a bunch of BS before we get into today's episode. So if you hate me, just say that and skip ahead. But by the way, this is also a video episode for. I am all over the place. I'm so sorry. This is a video episode for Best Ghoul Friends on Patreon, patreon.com/Susto Podcast. So I'm looking at you right in your eyes right now. I'm telling you all of this. But okay, so I started running. I'm deceptively a natural athlete. I don't know what it is. I picked it up and I said, you know what? I'm going to run a half marathon this year with the encouragement of family and friends. And I signed up for it months ago. It rolls around and because of this cough and that turned into bronchitis, I was not able to train. The last time I ran like 6 miles and I didn't train at all, basically, because this cough and bronchitis knocked me on my ass. There was no way I could train like that. But I was like, you know what? I paid for this. Let me go. My goal will be to finish it at the very least I can finish it. Y'all, why did I run 11 and a half out of those 13.1 miles? I'm literally a demon. You cannot kill me. You cannot keep me down because again, I just started to sound like myself, and then I said, okay, I think I can do this. I'll take the inhaler with me. Worst case scenario, it's the Austin International Half. They have everything taken care of, thought through. Worst case scenario, I get a ride from the EMT. And then that's it. And I try again next year. So I went for it and I did amazing. I did a sub 3 if that means I did it under 3 hours, if that means anything to anybody. I think my official tag time was 2 hours, 46 minutes. So yes, thank you so much. Please, you should clap. Exactly. And all jokes aside, I am so proud of myself that I even did it. Maybe a bad idea. I feel fine now. This was 2-3 days ago. And when I say I feel fine, I mean, I feel like I'm breathing fine. I feel like it didn't worsen my condition. I am extremely sore. Yes, my feet were killing me. I have the hips of a 95-year-old right now, but I did it and I'm so proud of myself. And I absolutely cried at the finish line. There's pictures. I'll throw them here in the video. I might post them online later. But yeah, so entering 2025 on like a low note by getting sick and then skyrocketing as soon as I was given the opportunity. So that's what this year is going to be. If I don't want there to be, but if there happen to be low points, that is only going to be followed by me shooting straight up from hell, like a bat out of hell. I'm telling you, I ran like hell. All that to say, I missed you. I missed this. Every time I take a break, even if it's one episode that I take off, I'm like, oh, I miss it so much. But the fact that I took the month of December off, and thank you so much to everyone who did a feed swap with me, and I hope you all enjoyed those shows. I hope you discovered someone new. I hope you were reminded of someone, whatever it is. I really hope you enjoyed that, and please feel free to send in your recommendations for next year. I took that month off. I didn't expect to take an extra, basically another month. We are at the end of January, which is mind-blowing to me. We're the last 2 weeks of January, so thank you so much for your patience. It honestly, it means so much to me because every time I have to take time off that is unplanned, it's devastating to me. I feel terrible about it, but you all are amazing at reminding me that although, yes, I am a monster, I am a demon, I am also still human. There's a human inside here somewhere that I need to take care of. And I really, really, truly appreciate every time that you all remind me about that. So thank you so much for returning. And if this is your first time, sorry, you just got the full display of what's happening in here. By the way, do you like my horns? If you're watching this on Patreon, you may have seen them also in the last movie night. I went live randomly on TikTok to show like, hey, I'm live on whatever. Anyway, new headphones, new horns, who dis. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for returning. Today is a very exciting episode. It's one of my favorite kinds of episodes to do. It is a Letters from the Beyond episode. I'm so excited to tell your stories. If you have your own scary story to share, stick around. This is new, actually. I finally officially launched like one set place as a catch-all, so I will still accept stories, media, all that stuff that you want to send in that you think I should share on an episode or on social media, the ways that I've accepted them before. But you can also visit either my website or my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Susto podcast. There is an official Letters from the Beyond Google form. So you go in there, and when I say official, it is official. You go in there, put in your information, your story, if you have photo, video, any sort of like multimedia to share, there's a spot in there for you to drop it in there. So what did I say? We're breaking out of hell, crawling our way out of the grave this year, and getting a little bit more official. So once again, please feel free to send in your stories that way or your media. I will, of course, accept it the other ways, but this is kind of the official pipeline that I am moving forward with. Before we actually jump into the episode, feel free. One of those ways was to leave a 5-star rating or positive review with your story. Hey, feel free to still do that. That's okay. You can still just do it for funsies. It's fun. Everyone's doing it. Tell your friends to do it too. Of course, that is one of the easiest ways to help Susto, and it's free, so feel free to interact with the show. Like, follow, subscribe, rate, review, all of that good stuff. You already know it. One more time, Happy New Year. Welcome officially to 2025. It is so good to talk to you, to see you. If you're watching, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's Letters from the Beyond.
Hey, what's up? I'm Charlie.
And I'm Tyler.
And we are Believing the Bizarre,
a paranormal podcast that dives into the unknown and the unusual every Tuesday.
We discuss hauntings, cryptids, aliens, UFO encounters, conspiracies, and more.
And we break down whether or not we find them believable.
All right, listen, if you're not paying for electricity, you're not paying for dinner.
Saw a terrifying looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes.
Almost reached it when the laughter stopped suddenly, and a sound behind me made me turn around.
Sorry, I was gonna do it, but then I had SpaceX.
So we got you covered, whether you like horror or laughs, or both. We actually really hope it's both.
With over 3 million downloads, you'll be joining a bizarro community that we promise is more than just Mothman and our parents.
We even take creepy stories from our listeners and turn them into episodes.
Check out Believing the Bizarre on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Believing the Bizarre, a podcast as bizarre as you are.
Okay, so this first story is from Jose, and he titled it a sleep paralysis story. So already, super into it. And Jose says, "Hey Adrian, I've been hooked on the podcast Let's Not Meet, and I remember sharing this story with them, but it's more horror ghost-like, while their pod is more about real life creeps. So definitely feel free to check them out. Eventually, I got to your podcast as a recommendation and have binging it from the beginning. Thank you, Jose, so much. I'm not too far in, but saw you talk about sleep paralysis, so thought I'd share this one with you. Yes, I do. I have an episode on sleep paralysis / la pisadera, or the night hag, which if I'm remembering correctly, is from Brazilian folklore, the version that I told on Susto. Jose continues, keep diving into the Latin horrors. Love this idea. I think it's a good idea too, Jose. Still think La Mano Peluda y Los Duendes fucked me up as a kid. Same. Colombian horror stories were my childhood, so this is cool to see how similar but different some Mexican folktales are and how it might be called something slightly different. Exactly. That's the whole point of this show, is we connect over our cultures no matter how different they may be. Sometimes they intersect in really, really cool ways. So thank you for pointing that out. On to the story. I have always been a horror aficionado with a wild imagination as a kid, so I know this can be what caused these night terrors to occur more frequently. As a child, I remember vivid moments where I would be frozen in my bed while hearing loud ringing in my ear. Things such as whispers getting louder and louder to the point of indistinguishable gibberish, the more panicked I would get. I say panicked because there was no way for me to move, let alone get in a deep breath. This was before I ever knew of the sleep paralysis having a name. I also noticed the more you try to move, the more it feels like there are ropes tied around you holding you down to the bed and getting tighter and tighter. Netflix has a decent movie called Nightmare that explains this phenomenon much more in depth, but when it occurred to me, I had no clue it was normal for others to feel it as well. It's as if you do not ever remember falling asleep, so your mind drifts from being very sleepy to being extremely lucid and terrified at the fact that something feels wrong. You cannot move your body, only your eyes, and the more you try to fight the paralysis, the more panic sets in. I believe this panic is what caused us to conjure up the darkest thoughts, which manifest what people say as a dark figure, alien, demon, or whatnot. Fast forward from age about 9 to high school. In high school, this became a frequent occurrence where I began to think I was being possessed, or something was trying to contact me. From just being paralyzed and seeing a tombstone appear near the foot of my bed, to waking up with bruises from where the tightness would be where I would try to move. There were even moments where I saw my mother open my bedroom door while I would try to scream for help. And when I eventually woke up, I'd go to my parents mad that they didn't help, and they would say they never came into my room and that I have been quietly sleeping the whole time. This usually only occurred when I was extremely exhausted during the day, such as coming back from the pool or beach and just wanting to crash. The easier it was to fall asleep, the faster these paralysis moments would come. High school started taking a toll on me after my track practices, where I would be terrified to even take a nap. Fast forward again from high school to age 23. I had just began dating my now wife, and we decided to go for a weekend to Philadelphia. We decided to stay in Old City, Philly, in a hotel room that seemed ancient but clean and nice. It gave the vibe that this was standing here since the 1700s, so a lot of history was here. We eventually got tired after exploring the town all day and drinking. Once we decided to go to bed, this part is important. I was on the left, wife on the right if you are looking at the bed from the foot of the bed. There was a simple dresser that was half empty in the top portion with an old TV system in it. Therefore, the doors needed to be open to see the TV, and the bottom was drawers for clothes. I have also been somewhat of a narcoleptic, so I can fall into deep sleep in a matter of minutes. We went to bed without watching TV, so the dresser doors were closed. This was just like any other night until I recall closing my eyes to bed, then waking up in swapped places, where I am now on the right side and she is on the left. Another important detail is that the entrance door to our room was closer to the left side of the bed, which is why I chose to sleep on that side in case anyone broke in. Paranoid person being raised in a not-so-safe neighborhood. And the door had one of those chain locks as well as the usual top bolt lock. What I saw still gives me goosebumps to this day. I opened my eyes and immediately knew I was in one of my sleep paralysis dreams because the dresser was open. The TV was playing old reruns of The Simpsons, and all the lights were off. My wife is usually very scared of old places and tends to feel presences or bad energy, while I, on the other hand, am oblivious to these sort of things and purposely go to old places to spook myself out. But She likes to at least keep one light on at all times. Let's just say I got what I was asking for. As soon as I look around the room, I begin to see our doorknob wiggling as if someone is trying to get in, and I begin to panic. I knew this was a dream, but at the moment it's hard to calm down the mind to snap out of it, so I closed my eyes and began to pray. But then came the noisy chatter in my head. I opened my eyes hoping it was over, but now I see that the door was opened slightly, but the chain was still holding it closed. I began to see a dark shadow of a hand with claws trying to get its way in to unlock the chain, and panic began to rise further, making me want to throw up. Once again, I closed my eyes and started to try to kick my body awake. This has worked countless of times before, and I wake up screaming, but it takes time to fight the exhaustion and paralysis. When I opened my eyes once more, the shadow figure was now in our room, just staring right at me. But it was hard to tell since it was the figure of a woman with long hair, and the only detail of her face was light white eyes. Eyes closed again. Opened them up again, and now she is standing right next to my wife, who is sound asleep. But she begins to slowly inch over to her to get to me and begins to whisper my wife's name.
Jen.
That was about all my horror fanatic self can take as I forced all my muscles to contract as much as I can to explosively jolt up. This startled my wife since now I am sitting right up screaming, sweating. The light is still on in our room and now she's trying to calm me down. But I'm once again woken up on the left side of the bed where she just was, and I try not to tell her what I just saw, but told her no way in hell am I going back to sleep. I checked the doors and everything was locked. The dresser door was closed, TV off, and nothing was out of the ordinary. Usually, when I have these episodes, nothing changes in the room, but this was the first and only time where things were completely switched and didn't match the setting. Maybe this might intrigue someone to come and stay in a hotel in Old City, Philly, since it still sometimes calls me back for the thrill of the fright. It's been years since I have had sleep paralysis happen, thank God, but low-key, kinda miss it. Jose, you are wild for missing sleep paralysis. I can't remember the last time that I've had sleep paralysis, nor do I want to, nor do I miss it, so something's wrong with you. No, I'm kidding. That is intense. This is a really intense story of sleep paralysis. This feels like it was drawn out over such a long period of time. When I've experienced it, and you all let me know if it's been different for you, but whenever I've experienced it, it's been in like short kind of bursts and only like once throughout a night, thankfully. But it never feels more than a couple minutes, more than like 3-5 minutes. This sounds like this took a long time, which is terrifying. Thank you so much for sending this in. I did ask Jose if he remembered the name of the hotel that they stayed in, but he couldn't remember because it had been so long. It had been so many years since that trip, but it was in Old City, Philly, which he says is a common area that has super old buildings and historical places. So if you all are interested in experiencing your own sleep paralysis experience, apparently Old City, Philly is where it's at. Thank you, Jose. Okay, this next story is from Autumn, and her subject line is just spooky story. Perfect, simple, love it, Autumn. And Autumn says, hey Aiden/Adrian, whichever you prefer, either way. My whole life I've been interested in spooky stuff. My dad was also this way and would always tell me stories from when he was a kid/teenager. As you've said, it's very common in the Hispanic culture. I wanted to share one of his stories with you that always stuck with me. For context, my great-grandparents immigrated from Mexico to West Texas, and my grandma grew up in poverty. When she got married to my grandfather, they stayed on my great-grandparents' property for a long time. This piece of property is small and still in the family. My great-grandfather had a reputation of being a, quote, evil man. He was abusive, and my great-grandmother, grandmother, and my great-aunts, everyone would say he practiced black magic. He died before I was born, so I didn't know him. Because of him being abusive, my grandma never talked about him, so I never asked what, quote, black magic meant to them. When I asked my aunts, they said they never wanted to know, so they didn't ask. So, with that context, as a teenager, my dad and grandparents still lived on my great-grandparents' property. One night, he and his friends were sitting out on the front porch that faced a fence line that was next to some trees and brush. They were sitting outside, smoking cigarettes, talking, when they heard something move off to the side of the house. My dad said he looked over and saw something big standing on two legs, and it was tall. He said it had to be 6 feet tall. He said all he could see were the eyes, which were bright red, and he and his friends froze, and this thing ran past the porch and jumped the fence. Obviously, he and his friends were terrified and ran into the house. The next morning, my grandma and great-grandma went outside and found large hoof prints from the area where they first saw the thing, all the way to the fence line. My grandma called the kids out to see and confirm what my dad saw. So, he doesn't know what it was. I think that property has a lot of evil attached to it because of my great-grandfather. A witch in our town was also paid to try and curse our family because of him. My dad also said after his grandfather died, he always saw his ghost walking around the property in his, quote, white wife beater, or white tank top. He said he knew it had to be a ghost because every time he would walk the same path and turn and disappear into one of the walls outside of the house. The tank top shirt was something he wore every day in life, so my dad knew it was him. My grandmother lived in a house on that property until she died there when I was in high school. I have my own experience in her house I could share too, but this email is super long already. I hope you enjoyed. Autumn. Autumn, that email was not long at all. Please send more. I think I reached out to you and I said to keep them coming. So if you hear this, thank you so much for sending that in. I actually did also read this episode on a crossover that I did with Carmen and Christina from Spooky Tales and Lainey from It's Haunted, What Now? And True Crime Cases with Lainey, kind of as a soft launch for our new podcast, Consejitos Anonymous. So feel free to follow that on Instagram and check it out. We may or may not have just recorded something, so keep your eyes and ears open for that. Yeah, I think what I remember talking about this story is it was very interesting, this idea of your great-grandfather in a way kind of like protecting the property from whatever that thing may have been, or maybe that thing was him, or maybe the kind of magic that he did summoned this thing. And it was this interesting take of like, he's protecting the property and the family, although he, like you said, he was abusive in his life. But it's that kind of mentality of like, no, only I can abuse these. It's weird to say, but like, these are my people to abuse, is kind of the way that I've seen abusers thinking portrayed or like documented. Is there's that ego kind of territorial, this is mine, I get to do what I want with it, not you, right? Either way, Autumn, thank you so much for sending that in. This, again, seeing this 6 foot tall dark figure at night and just bright red eyes. I'm not a demon doctor, okay? I simply am one, but that sounds like a demon to me. It's giving me chills just thinking about it. I don't want to think about seeing that ever. Okay, this is another great one from Christina. Christina, thank you so much for sending this in. This is a really Christina documented a really creepy night at the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum on a trip that she took. So very excited to read this one to you because it's intense. Oh my God, reading through this was like, creepy to me. But anyway, Christina says, "Hey Aiden, I would love to recap these stories to you. I think it will give you a fun little chill up your spine." It sure did. She says, "So, September 16th, we went to the Haunted Museum and did the RIP tour. Me, my friend, and her mom, of course, did the usual jokes on the way of us being Zach Bagans and how I never believed in ghosts until we saw someone say they saw one. Funny little jokes like that. For context, my friend is Catholic and I am a practitioner with a vague belief system, but we both absolutely rolled up with crosses. Good idea. Or, well, for the beginning. I don't know if I would call myself a sensitive, but I always have had incidents that happened around me and I could never explain. Things disappearing the moment I put them down, seeing people that weren't there for brief moments all through my life, dreams that could predict things days or years in advance. But once we entered the waiting room, one thing flooded my brain as I adjusted the cross chain on my neck. Take it off. 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 So I did. I'm going to pause right there, Christina. If I went to a haunted museum and then I suddenly heard something telling me to take off whatever symbol of protection I have on. I'm not doing that, sister, but you are you are different than me. You are different from me. So, hey, you did it, and I'm glad that you lived to send this story in. But I just wanted to, hey, flag on the play really quick for me. Christina continues, so I did, and boy, did I get what I was looking for. What did I say? We started in a room for Annalise Michel and listening to the recording as you stared at the exorcism kit used on her in a room that was made to look like a dark church. It stirred something in me where I couldn't really look away from the box, till we were instructed to go through a tunnel that had no lights and told to watch our hands and not to touch anything. I fumbled along the wall, feeling for it, and when I got to the edge, I felt some fabric. Looking up to see, I had grabbed onto the sleeve of a puppet with my right hand and pulled away. It was a damn room full of puppets. I'm not a big doll fan. Christina, neither am I. As the tour progressed, my pinky and ring finger on my right hand began to tingle, and thinking it was my adorable little cookie purse cutting off circulation to my arm, I shifted it over. It didn't really work. In fact, it began to move up my hand in a numbing pins and needles feeling as we eventually went down to the basement where we had to walk over a pentagram on the floor as a spirit box ran in the background. We were told that if we heard our names to say something immediately because then we were in trouble. Whilst I didn't hear anything, I thought I heard my friend's name, but I couldn't be sure, so I didn't mention it. Christina, pause, flag, another flag on the play. I would have said something. She says she didn't hear it either, but her mother definitely did. And she didn't mention it till after we left. Walking over the pentagram, I felt like gravity had momentarily shifted, and I don't recall much down there besides that it was cramped and dark, and we all left shortly after or we would get into trouble as we were timed. Once we got to the second floor, the pins and needles had gone up to my bicep, and my pinky and ring finger started to hurt. I mentioned it to my friend, but we were both in it to win it. We had heard people got escorted out for less than this, and it was too soon. And let me tell you, this place was covered wall to wall in items this man has bought or been donated to him. Tribal items, statues, sacrificial tools, skeletons, a lion head, a skin suit, the chair from Michael Jackson's room, Patrick Swayze's tooth, so much serial killer memorabilia, and the mirrors, gods above and below. The mirrors. But we ended up in Peggy's room, and besides irritation, I didn't get much from her. In fact, she didn't say anything. There is also the room that has the severed head of a man, but I couldn't bring myself to look at it. The room was so intense and dark that I couldn't do it. My friend did say he looked a little dry and needed a bit of lotion though, so that was kind of funny. Oh my god, not you all reading this poor person's head. I wonder, this is not in the story, but me, Aiden, I wonder what is the process of getting these things, you know, or keeping them on display. I'm like, there has to be some, because I know like with skulls, for example, like human skulls, real human skulls that people collect or trade or whatever, there's laws around that. And so I'm like, a severed head? Like, is it real? Is it like, I don't know. I'm very curious about like, okay, what's the paperwork behind this? Like, I'm just thinking of the logistics about how are we making this happen? Christina continues, we eventually got to the Dybbuk box room. And this item in particular has a lot of drama around it. You're right, it does. As Kevin Mannis has claimed this to allegedly be a hoax. Whilst I can't approve or deny this claim, I also wouldn't want to be known as the Dybbuk box guy for the rest of my life, you know? So it's a big debate regarding the story, and I take it with a grain of salt. Good, you should. But I also know about the power of belief and what it can do to an item with enough focus put onto it. That's exactly right. I also agree with that. It's like you're reading my mind writing this out. Christina continues, my friend and I felt incredibly sad rather than upset in the room as we were being debriefed about the box. I thought someone brushed against my leg before I realized I was standing in an empty corner. This room, I can't explain, but it's consuming. Not obsessive, but more confusing, like it doesn't know what it is supposed to be. It's sad, but angry and annoying, all rolled up and locked away in one room. I'm not white enough to be the idiot that opens something with all that drama attached to it. She continues, as we made our way back downstairs, my arm at this point was absolutely in pain, but I was toughing it out at this point. I wasn't going to go home. I was in it to win it for the last stretch. We then stopped at Bela Lugosi's mirror on the steps. Earlier on the way up these same steps, my friend claimed she slipped on a step but felt like someone pushed her forward so she didn't fall. I was behind her, and it wasn't me. Now, standing directly across from the mirror, I couldn't even hear the tour guide's voice as I just stared into it and watched my figure vanish into a black, thick fog enveloped in the mirror until my friend nudged me to continue down the stairs to keep up with the tour. Lastly, we were introduced to Lily, who is a small girl in a doll that has real hair. And we love and support Lily. She can do no wrong. You're absolutely right. I always say this. More than supporting women's rights, I support women's wrongs. And Lily, I think she falls into the cryptid femme kind of category on Susto. Christina continues, that was just a taste of the tour. And after, when we recapped at a crepe place later, crepes sound good right now, my friend pointed out that I had a circular bruise on my forearm forming, roughly the size of a nickel. No nightmares, no bleeding eyes, no scratches or mind-bending horrors. We discussed it in depth if we wanted to do the flashlight tour, and sensing my friend was unsure, we gave it a few days before we went again by ourselves for the flashlight tour, and limited access in the dark for about 2 hours. Now the price? Debatable. But was it worth it? For us, it was. Okay, you got your money's worth. Good. And this time I wore my cross. Good, Christina, thank you. But it didn't matter much. Oh my God. Okay. She says, we were given free reign, but we didn't even make it past the first quarter of the house, and we certainly didn't want to start upstairs. We both wandered around a lot, but eventually landed ourselves somehow downstairs in Peggy's room. Nothing. Nada. Not a peep. We leave. Someone else goes in with their group. They're getting words. Curse words, but words. We then went to Lee Sober Shapiro's room, and whilst we didn't get much, and I don't recall much, my friend claims I suddenly went still and told her something was touching me. She asked them politely to stop, and then we were told by the ghost to leave. We agreed and moved to the demon house room next door. What a great comforting title, very welcome and inviting, which wasn't much more comforting. It called out, "Witch," on the spirit box, and when I said yes, it told us one word, Dybbuk. So, ignoring that, we said goodbye, and then we went to the Devil's Rocking Chair room. Again, the names of these rooms, so warm and inviting, where we began asking questions. I eventually asked if there was anything that we should know, and it said, Dybbuk, incredibly loud and clear. Me and my friend looked at one another like we were just sentenced to life in funny jail. I asked if it wanted us to go to the Dybbuk box room, and it said, yes. And then, out. So we walked our terrified asses up the stairs to one of the people monitoring upstairs, and asked if we were okay to do a session, which she agreed. We did ask if this was normal to be asked to go to the room by the spirits, and as she looked at us like we had 3 heads, she said, I don't know, I've never heard of that. I guess you'll have to find out. So we stay in the waiting room, and as we look to her for support, she's already gone. Big fear. We began asking questions, not getting much, but we get Jesus Christ very clear on the spirit box, and I feel for my chain, thankful it's still there, and reply that yes, this time I'm wearing my cross, and I ask if it's the one that told me to take it off last time. No response. I ask what it wants to tell me. No response. Just this eerie feeling that we know it wants us in the room next door where the box is. We don't go in. We chicken the fuck out, in fact, and go downstairs to say hi to Lily for the 10th time that night as we pass back and forth. Lily can only answer yes or no questions, typically using a little electromagnetic bell or something of the sort. Once for yes, 2 for no type of deal. At this point, a couple we learned had struggled with the loss of their child had been talking to her for over an hour at this point. Not asking yes or no questions, but more personal ones that I won't get into because they were very personal. Thank you, Christina, for respecting their tender moment. But definitely not something to ask a child about death and belief. But as we said hello, over their spirit box, we hear my sister's name called out. And as we look at one another in horror, we move on, unable and unwilling to intertwine with that situation further. Bye, Lily. We ask a group if we can join them. Explain it feels like something is following us. They agree. We check our gear for a second and turn around to see they left us. That is terrible. You're like, hey, we're kind of scared. Can we hang out with you? And they're like, yeah, sure. Bye. Did not wait for you. Maybe they were more scared than you were. Who knows? They didn't want to, like you said earlier, they didn't want to get intertwined with this situationship you had with whatever spirit was talking with you. Christina continues, hi, Lily. Bye, Lily. We go to what we called the bunny room, also known as the Dennis Hoff room. And dear God, If a haunted bed with a grotesque demon wasn't bad enough, 4 mirrors in one room definitely made it worse. We were asking questions, and the EMF machine spiked for the first time that whole night. As the Ovulus tool began spouting words, witch, plane, malfunction, car, witch, accident, box. And just as we aren't getting anything on the spirit box and begin leaving, the word contrition comes up. At the time, we don't realize what it means, and we jokingly ask if it can speak normal for us. Dumb it down a little. Simpleton. Ouch. Mean but not inaccurate. What I realized later when we got back was that my nieces had been baptized a few months prior, and I was one of their godmothers. Okay, this is me interrupting again, so for those of you who don't know what contrition means, because I obviously knew. No, I didn't. I had to look it up too. Contrition, according to Google, is the state of feeling remorseful and penitent, or in the Roman Catholic Church, the repentance of past sins, or after confession. Really quick blurb from Wikipedia here says, in Christianity, contrition or contriteness is repentance for sins one has committed. The remorseful person is said to be contrite. A central concept in much of Christianity, contrition is regarded as the first step through Christ towards reconciliation with God. So basically just kind of making peace with your sins, right? Christina finishes up here. We decided to finish up in the Dybbuk box room, and we leave an offering as a sign of peace. Fun fact, neither my friend or I can remember what she offered, which I guess means they really liked that. I left quarters, enough for bus fare, like paying for passage in the afterlife, which that's very nice. But we finally went into the room and got only more questions than answers. It definitely had been calling us back, so after a few minutes of silence, I asked if it wanted something from us. Yes. What did it want? Look. You want us to look at you? Yes. For the briefest instance, I look up and I swear I saw someone looking through the glass towards us from the inside of the barrier. Friend is looking at the EMF as I explained that whilst I appreciate the offer, we can't. Even if we wanted, we can't get to you, and we'll be leaving as an offering as a sign of peace and to not follow us home. This is great. You stood your ground, you set your boundary. Love that for you. As soon as we do that and leave, heading down the stairs, we feel a weight lift off our shoulders, like the whole time we had someone piggybacking on us the whole time. That is a terrifying feeling. To this day, I don't know what it had planned for me, but honestly, if I ever get the chance, I would absolutely go again. I'm trying to gather some friends to plan for the next year or two for another trip. If you ever get the chance, even to just do the RIP tour, it is really exciting and interesting. If I find the photos I sent to my family group chat, I will send it to you. It was pretty crazy. Let me know what you think, Christina. Thank you so much, Christina. This was amazing, great. And there are 2 photos here that Christina sent. The first one, you can see the bruise very lightly forming, and the second one, you can see like, oh yeah, there's definitely a spot there. That is creepy. She has a PS here. She said, I also forgot to mention at one point after Shapiro's room, we began to head to Annalise's room, and I was telling my friend how I didn't want to go into the doll/puppet rooms because they're freaky. That's correct, they are freaky. As I mentioned that, I felt like someone took a hammer and smashed my knee. I almost hit the floor, but we kept going because it had barely been 30 minutes of the flashlight tour. It lasted about a minute or two, but I definitely deserved that. Just a little. You know, I'm not going to say that you deserve physical, psychic, metaphysical attacks. that is wild. I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly, that Bethany and Leah, the Paranormal Putas, they did this tour recently. And when I say recently, I mean like last year in 2024 at some point. I'm going to check, but you all should double check as well. It may have been on their Patreon. I could be remembering wrong just because it's, you know, it's Zach Baggins, but I want to say they did the tour recently. If they've maybe done it multiple times. I could be making stuff up. I could just be spreading rumors. Actually, there's Zach's best friend. That's what I heard. Pass it along. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Christina, so much for sending this in. Okay, this is the last one, and it's a pretty short one, but as always, I mean it, I appreciate every contribution that you all make to a Letters from the Beyond episode. And this says, hi, I'm a big fan of your podcast. Thank you, me too. This is from Nassim, by the way. Nassim says, I have a quick paranormal experience I want to tell you. So one time I was in my bed at 12 a.m. and I was just laying on my bedside on my side. Then I heard my door open and close, but the thing was that I heard no footsteps at all, and I was so scared that I wouldn't turn over, and to this day, I hear weird sounds at night, and now I'm paranoid. Thank you. 5 stars. Thank you so much for the 5 stars here in this email. That is so sweet. This reminds me of, and I've told this story before, that time that I swear to this day, I believe it, that I heard a lechuza outside of my bedroom window. I was about to go open the blinds, if y'all remember the story, because I heard dogs, and then I heard the lechuza, and then I was like, nope, and I turned back around, and I refused to even face the window, and I was like, my bed was up against the window, so it reminds me kind of that. Nassim sent a follow-up. I asked them if they could expand on that, and they said that they usually just hear creaks or thing like that, but that one time, they heard their mom call them, and they asked her what she wanted, and then she said that she didn't call them. So a mimic or something, or an echo maybe of the energy. You know how I think about these kinds of things. You all maybe know that already, that we all are just kind of balls of energy leaving impressions, whether they're true hauntings or not. You know, that it could have been that, you know, I've seen my mom in my house before and she's alive and well. Thank the heavens, right? So this could have been something like that, but who knows? It could also be a mimic taking your mother's voice. Thank you so much, Nassim, for sending that in. Ghoul friends, thank you so much once again for listening to this Letters from the Beyond episode. Thank you for your patience this last month and a half, almost 2 months. I obviously didn't plan on getting sick. I didn't plan on getting bronchitis. I think it is a podcaster's worst nightmare to get sick in a way that affects your voice. I still feel like my voice is not 100%, but I said there's no way, I cannot postpone this anymore. I'm feeling well enough that I can finally sit down and do something. I feel like I'm sounding close enough to my regular self again that I can do this. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sending in your Letters from the Beyond. Again, please feel free to use that official Letters from the Beyond form by visiting my website, sustopodcast.com. It's linked in my link tree. That's linktr.ee/sustopodcast, which you can find in the bios of all of my social media accounts, again, or the website. Once again, this is a video episode. So if you are a best ghoul friend on patreon.com/sustopodcast, you have access to this video and you could have watched this whole thing. So thank you so much for signing up and being a Patreon subscriber, a best ghoul friend, or at any level. As always, the easiest way to support the show is by listening, engaging with it wherever you are listening. You can follow me online for any and all updates on the show. That's at Susto Podcast on every social media platform. Big shout out to this episode's Patreon supporters. You are Liza, Sadie, Rachel, Alejandra, Luther, April, D, Josette, Sam, Amanda, Jules, Lori, Jeannie, Desiree, C, Annecy, Ashes, Neressa, Rachel, Azucena, Marlene, Chata, Lainey, Desiree A, Cynthia, Carla, Belinda, Archer, Ricardo, Sarah, Vanessa, Maritza, Nieves, Monica, Alba, and Iris. Thank you all so much for your support. It means the underworld to me. If you were interested in becoming a patron, you can visit patreon.com/sustopodcast. There are various updates like bonus content, early and ad-free episodes, video episodes, Susto movie nights or virtual hangouts. You all, welcome to 2025. I'm so excited for this year, as I am every year with you here. I will talk to you in the next one, and until then, no te asustes. Bye.